Hello guys. Welcome to my channel. My name is Miracle. Mimi for short. If this is the first time seeing my beautiful face, you are welcome. So our next video is from Jordan Peterson and it says, "Are you Cain or Abel?" Nah. I am Abel and I'm not Cain. I know I am a descendant of Abel and not Cain. The origin of victim mentality. Let's check it out.
I've been criticized for my views on postmodernism, my assumption that it's a form of Marxism. And so here's what I think Marxism and postmodernism share, and here's how I think they're different. And this is a good thing for conservatives to know, Because they share the victim-victimizer narrative. And that in itself isn't Marxist. That's a variant of the story of Cain and Abel. It's it's the ancient way of viewing the world through the lens of resentment. And Marxism was a variant of that. Now, the postmodernists dispensed with Marxism, and they did that partly because people like Solzhenitsyn showed how brutal and catastrophic by necessity Marxism became. Now, all those French postmodernists, they were steeped in Marxism. They didn't want to give it up. So they kept the victim-victimizer narrative, and they turned it into something multidimensional, right? That would be the intersectional postmodernism, where you can be a victim or a victimizer on any dimension of comparison and all of them simultaneously. So it's like a meta-Marxism. It's like the full flowering of bitter resentment. But here's the difference. And this is so stunning. It just hit me hard this week. The Marxists insisted that the primary dimension of victim-victimizer, and really the only one worth considering, given their universal human vision, was economic. And the bloody postmodernists put that at the bottom of the intersectional hierarchy. So, weirdly, although they accepted and propagated the victim-victimizer narrative, they inverted the hierarchy so that, see, you can think about someone like Claudine Gay. Like, there's no way you can make the case that Claudine Gay was oppressed economically. In fact, economically, coming from a rich family, as she did, she's clearly a victimizer. But that doesn't count because for some incomprehensible reason, maybe, and this is where I would particularly like your comments, the postmodern victim-victimizer types, they abandoned the economic issue. That's why like poor white people can't be oppressed, even though, like, I think the most compelling case you can make for the
See guys, like there's something I want to say. Anyone who thinks Jesus Christ was a victim does not understand anything, does not understand the Bible, does not understand who Jesus was. Yes, nobody, like someone who willingly gave himself, who willingly walked, like he willingly sacrificed himself. He offered himself to redeem us all, to redeem our souls. Do you think if Jesus Christ did not go there to sacrifice himself for us or for the sins of men, do you think we'll still be alive here today? Do you think so? But Jesus went there to sacrifice himself for us, to lay his life for us there. Come to think of it, in this modern day world now, who do you think will go out in the world to sacrifice itself for other people? Who do you think will go? But Jesus Christ took it upon himself to do that. I wonder the way the people think. Seriously, I just wonder. He sacrificed his life to save the souls of men, and yet you are not still satisfied. You are thinking he's oh, Allah God. I just love the way Jordan Peterson is just summarize all these things. The way he's just saying it, like, gosh, this man is really talented, and he's really an intellectual man.
prioritization of Marxism as, or the victim-victimizer narrative as the cardinal orienting story of mankind, and then this weird inversion of Marxism that characterizes the radicals that we see today.
I mean, I certainly think that there's a lot of support for that idea, right? There are a lot of philosophers who, for example, have treated Marxism not as an outgrowth of a capitalist economic theory, but actually as a sort of perverse and twisted outgrowth of a misread of Christianity. That Christianity suggesting that the meek will inherit the earth, but on an economic level, the meek aren't inheriting the earth. Therefore, there must be some form of class exploitation that's going on. And so reading Marxism as a weird offshoot of Christianity rather than a weird offshoot of capitalism is sort of one way of seeing that in a misread of Christianity. Nietzsche actually did some of this, right? Nietzsche actually sort of suggested this when he treated
Right, yes.
Christianity as a perverse version of a victimizer or victim narrative that replaced the idea of good, strong, and beautiful, and weak, nasty, and terrible. Right? That his moral prism was the idea that just because something is good and strong doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. And he was creating what I think is a perverse view of Christianity as arguing against that, and then creating a victimizer narrative in opposition to that. When you talk about the postmodernists, I think one of the things the postmodernists are doing is I think almost all postmodernism is a form of projection. And so when they suggest that all narratives are about power dynamics, I think what they are saying is they wish to use their narrative as a power dynamic. Narrative, they understand, is the thing that drives human beings. And so what they do is they read their own willingness to drive human beings via a narrative like victim-victimizer into every narrative. So it must be that every narrative is driven by an underlying power substructure, because their narrative, they believe, is driven by an underlying power substructure. And I think, obviously, that's wrong. And again, I think that also comes from a postmodernism, again, is sort of a weird, perverse offshoot of the Enlightenment, in the sense that if you're talking about an a priori view of the world, which is that everything that you have arrived at in society, everything that pre-exists you, is effectively arbitrary or a version of crammed down power, that there's no validity to the world that you inherit, which is, I think, one of the premises of some of the changes that came about because of the Enlightenment, but also one of the premises of postmodernism, which is you get to wreck all the systems because you were born into an unfair system driven by perverse views of power. That's the great lie. And so postmodernism has to have its own narrative. I mean, this, of course, is the great kind of meta failing of postmodernism, is that in its desire to destroy all narratives as forms of power, they have to derive their own narrative in order to do that, right? Postmodernism is self-defeating on the very root intellectual level, but that doesn't mean that it's not effective. And again, I think a lot of this lies, a lot of the Enlightenment, the post-Enlightenment, a lot of this lies in, frankly, a perverse misreading of biblical narratives.
So let me touch on that one. Okay, so I just wrote about the parable of the unjust steward. Now, it's a very interesting parable. So the story is about this employer, essentially, and he has an employee, a servant, but an employee for all intents.
I believe that Ben Shapiro has his own view on Christianity. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily means going hand in hand with how without Christians perceive their faith. I think so.
So the story is about this employer, essentially, and he has an employee, a servant, but an employee for all intents and purposes, and he threatens to fire him for misusing his funds. And the employee goes out to some of his subcontractors and he offers them this deal where if they pay off a certain proportion of their debts immediately, so that he has some money so that he can move forward in good faith, apart from this side deal with his employer, then everything will be set straight. And so he does that, and he generates enough capital to satisfy his master. Now, there's a certain dishonesty in his maneuverings, but Christ says to his followers that the children of darkness essentially are sometimes wiser than the children of light, and that there's some utility in serving mammon properly, as long as you don't prioritize that over services of what is to the highest. It's a very, very interesting parable. And because
See, guys, guys, gospel doesn't say materialism, material things are bad, are bad things, because that can lead you to that silly prosperity of gospel, something like that. Yes, can lead you to that. But the gospel is about intent and being prosperous. Allah want to help those in need to acquire knowledge and to help the society. But the pursuit of prosperity comes with its dangers, and that is what the gospel warns about. See, guys, this world we are, everything is vanity upon vanity. Even the gospel says it. Even in the Bible, it says vanity upon vanity. Like anything you are doing, Put God first in everything you are doing. Me, I believe I'm Abel. I don't know of others. If you are Cain, let me know in the comment section if you are Cain. But me, as for me and my household, we are Abel. Good and fine. But all I have to say is that vanity upon vanity. Do not treasure the earthly things. Even though you want to treasure the earthly things, you know your limit, because God is God. He's still God. He's still God again. God is still God. He's still himself. He's omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. Anything can happen. Always put God first in everything you do. That's just it. Seriously. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Like, watch, and subscribe my channel, and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye bye.